Imagine this. You meet a man who seems, by all accounts, right. He's charming, emotionally articulate, stable. He talks warmly about his family, especially his mother. And at first you think, this is a green flag. A man who loves his mother must know how to love a woman, right? In the beginning, everything feels safe, even reassuring. He answers her calls quickly. He checks in on her often. You tell yourself it's loyalty, values, maturity, but then, slowly, something starts to feel off. Your dates are interrupted, not once, but repeatedly. Decisions stall, plans hang in the air because he needs to check with her. And one day, without any dramatic argument or clear betrayal, you notice a quiet shift. When you're in the same room with him and his mother, you feel like the outsider. You're not jealous, you're not insecure, you just feel strangely unnecessary. It's as if the relationship already has its center and you're orbiting around it. Society laughs this off. We call him a mama's boy, a harmless label, almost endearing. But psychology tells a very different story, because a true mama's boy isn't simply a man who loves his mother. He is a man who never truly separated from her. What looks like closeness is often something far more complex and far more damaging: emotional enmeshment. In severe cases, emotional incest. Today, we're going to look beneath the surface of this dynamic, not to mock it, not to demonize it, but to understand the invisible bond that quietly destroys intimacy, and why loving a man like this can make you slowly disappear. It doesn't happen all at once. There's no explosion, no obvious betrayal. It's a moment so small you almost dismiss it. You're talking about something that matters to you. Maybe moving in together, maybe a trip, maybe a decision that feels like a step forward. He listens, he nods, and then he says it, casually, without malice. I should probably ask my mum first. You smile. You tell yourself it's nothing. But something inside you tightens. Over time, these moments stack up. Plans are tentative. Decisions feel delayed. Your needs are always pending. And slowly, you stop bringing things up. Not because you don't care, but because you already know the answer will come from somewhere else. This isn't jealousy, it's erasure. You start to feel like your role in the relationship is conditional, temporary, replaceable. As if you're auditioning for a part that's already been cast. And the most confusing part, he isn't cruel, he isn't dismissive in obvious ways. He still says he loves you, but love in practice means being chosen. It means your voice carries weight, and when every meaningful choice is filtered through someone else, you begin to question something far more painful than the relationship itself. Do I actually belong here? Or am I just filling space around a bond that was never meant to include me? That's the moment you start feeling erased. To understand what's happening, we need to step out of the emotional fog for a moment and look at this through a psychological lens. In healthy development, there is a natural shift that occurs in adulthood. A child grows up, forms an identity, and gradually, the primary emotional bond moves from parent to partner. This doesn't mean abandoning a parent. It means differentiation, knowing where you end and someone else begins. Enmeshment is what happens when that process never fully occurs. In an enmeshed dynamic, closeness replaces individuality. Boundaries are blurred. Emotional separation feels unsafe, almost forbidden. The parent and child remain psychologically intertwined long after the child's body has grown into adulthood. This is why it's so important to be clear about something. Enmeshment is not about how often they talk. It's not about Sunday dinners or checking in. It's about who holds emotional authority. In a healthy bond, a mother may offer advice, but she doesn't expect obedience. In enmeshment, her feelings quietly outrank everyone else's. The adult son doesn't ask for her opinion because he's curious. He asks because not doing so triggers anxiety, guilt, or a deep sense of disloyalty. And this is where partners often get confused. From the outside, it can look like kindness, respect, family values, but from the inside, the system operates on emotional pressure, not choice. There is no clear boundary between my feelings and her feelings. If she's upset, he's distressed. If she disapproves, he freezes. And without realizing it, he brings this fused system into his romantic relationship. You're not entering a partnership with an individual who stands on his own emotional ground. You're stepping into an already established emotional unit, one where decisions, loyalty, and safety have been defined long before you arrived. Understanding this isn't about assigning blame, it's about clarity, because once you can name enmeshment, you can stop blaming yourself for dynamics that were never truly about you. The first sign is also the most destabilizing, because it quietly reverses the natural order of adult relationships. In a healthy partnership, priorities shift, not abruptly, not cruelly, but clearly. A man can still love his mother deeply, while understanding that his partner becomes his primary emotional responsibility. That shift is how a new family unit is formed. It's how intimacy survives. For the mama's boy, that shift never happens. Instead, you begin to notice a paradox. He's committed to you, but only after he's committed to her. Her comfort comes first. Her opinions carry more weight. And when there's a conflict, spoken or unspoken, you can feel it in the air. Your needs are negotiable. Hers are not. You might hear phrases like, "My mum wouldn't like that. She's just worried about me. I don't want to upset her." On the surface, these sound reasonable, even caring, but underneath them is a quiet message. Your feelings are secondary, and over time, this does something subtle but corrosive. You start editing yourself. You compromise preemptively. You shrink your needs to avoid being the difficult one, not because you're weak, but because the system has already taught you where you stand. Love, in its healthiest form, doesn't require you to compete. It doesn't ask you to earn your place through silence or sacrifice. When a man cannot emotionally prioritize his partner, the relationship doesn't feel like a partnership. It feels like a waiting room. And the most painful part of the priority paradox isn't that you aren't loved. It's that you're never truly chosen. When people ask, why doesn't he just stand up to her? They often assume the answer is weakness or indifference toward you. But for an enmeshed man, the real force isn't a lack of love, it's guilt. This guilt didn't appear in adulthood. It was conditioned into him early, quietly and repeatedly. Somewhere along the way, he learned that his mother's emotional well-being was his responsibility. If she was sad, it was because he failed her. If she was lonely, it was his job to fix it. And if he pulled away, even slightly, he wasn't just being independent, he was being bad. So when he hesitates to set boundaries now, his nervous system reacts as if something terrible is about to happen. His body feels the threat before his mind can reason through it. Anxiety rises, panic follows, and guilt tightens like a leash around his chest. This is why logic doesn't work. You can explain your needs calmly, you can be patient, compassionate, reasonable, but you're not arguing with his thoughts. You're up against a lifetime of emotional conditioning. And here's the part that hurts most. To reduce his guilt, he will often sacrifice the relationship instead of confronting its source. Not because you matter less, but because upsetting his mother feels psychologically unbearable. This isn't love. It's emotional obligation disguised as devotion. And when guilt is the leash, every step toward adulthood feels like betrayal. Understanding this doesn't make the dynamic less painful, but it can stop you from internalizing a lie that slowly destroys you. That if you were more understanding, more patient, more quiet, he would finally choose you. He's not choosing between two women. He's choosing between freedom and the guilt that has defined him his entire life. The third and fourth signs often appear together because they come from the same root, the absence of emotional boundaries. In an enmeshed system, privacy doesn't exist in the way it should. He tells his mother things that belong only to the two of you: arguments, finances, frustrations, sometimes even intimate details. Not out of malice, but because he never learned that a romantic relationship requires a protected inner circle. To him, there is no clear us. There is only the original unit he never left. And when conflict arises, something else becomes painfully clear. He doesn't step forward. He doesn't mediate. He doesn't protect the partnership. Instead, he retreats into what looks like neutrality. I'm stuck in the middle. Can't you two just get along? I don't want to take sides. But this isn't neutrality. It's avoidance. By refusing to draw a boundary, he's already made a choice. He's choosing his own comfort over the integrity of the relationship. You become the one expected to adapt, to soften, to stay quiet so the system remains stable. Over time, this dynamic erodes intimacy. You stop feeling like a partner. You feel like an outsider negotiating access to a space that was never meant to be private. A relationship without boundaries isn't closeness. It's exposure without safety. And when a man cannot create a boundary between his mother and his partner, there is no real partnership, only a triangle where one person is always expendable. In that triangle, it's rarely him who feels the cost. To fully understand this dynamic, we need to look past the man you're dating and see the child he once was. Because no child is born enmeshed. This is something that happens slowly inside a family system that mistakes closeness for control. Often the mother in this dynamic was emotionally unfulfilled herself. Maybe her marriage was cold. Maybe she felt unseen, abandoned, or chronically alone. And without always realizing it, she turned toward her son, not as a child to raise, but as a source of emotional reassurance. He became the listener, the comforter, the one who made her feel chosen. She praised him, elevated him, made him feel special in ways that felt like love, but came with invisible strings attached. The message was subtle, yet powerful. You matter most when you stay close. To a child, this feels intoxicating. He feels important, needed, irreplaceable. What he doesn't realize is the cost. He never gets to fully become himself. His independence feels dangerous, and separation begins to feel like abandonment. Not just for her, but for him. If a father was absent, passive, or emotionally eclipsed, there was no counterbalance, no model of healthy distance, no one to interrupt the bond and say, "This is too much for a child to carry." So the boy adapts. He learns to read moods, to manage emotions that aren't his, to stay small where independence might cause pain. This doesn't make him manipulative, it makes him conditioned. And here is where many partners get trapped. You see the wounded child behind the man. You feel compassion. You understand why he struggles. And slowly, without meaning to, you begin compensating for a wound you didn't create. Understanding the child behind the man can soften your judgment, but it should never require you to sacrifice yourself to save him. Empathy explains the pattern. It does not obligate you to endure it. One of the most painful questions people ask themselves in this situation is, if this hurts so much, why can't I just leave? The answer isn't weakness, it's hope. You don't stay because you don't see the problem. You stay because you see his potential. You see the moments when he's present, kind, emotionally open. You glimpse the man he could be if he were free. And you tell yourself that with enough patience, enough understanding, enough love, he'll finally choose differently. There's also something deeper at play. You don't just empathize with the man in front of you, you empathize with the child behind him. And that empathy quietly turns into responsibility. You start explaining his behavior for him. You minimize your own needs. You hold space for pain that isn't yours to carry. This is the hope trap. It convinces you that love means endurance, that staying longer is proof of depth, that leaving would make you cruel or selfish. But hope becomes dangerous when it keeps you tethered to a dynamic that requires your silence to survive. Staying doesn't make you loyal, it makes you slowly disappear, and recognizing that isn't a failure of love, it's the beginning of self-respect. This is the question that lingers the longest, often long after you've named the pattern. Can he change? The honest answer is complicated, and it's not romantic. Yes, change is possible, but not because you love him harder, not because you explain yourself better, and not because you wait patiently enough. For an enmeshed man, separating psychologically from his mother doesn't feel like growth. It feels like danger. Setting boundaries triggers something primal. His body reacts as if he's about to lose love, safety, even identity itself. This is why he freezes, why he avoids, why he retreats instead of confronting. He's not just afraid of conflict, he's afraid of emotional annihilation. Real change would require him to face the grief of a childhood he didn't get. It would require therapy, awareness, a willingness to tolerate guilt without obeying it. And most importantly, it would require his decision, not yours. This is where many partners exhaust themselves, trying to be the catalyst, trying to be patient enough to inspire growth, trying to absorb the discomfort so he doesn't have to. But growth doesn't come from comfort, it comes from consequence. He will only change when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of separation. And if that moment never comes, it doesn't mean you weren't worth changing for. It means you are asking someone to step into adulthood when they were still protecting a system that kept them emotionally safe. Understanding this can be heartbreaking, but it can also be freeing. If you've recognized yourself anywhere in this story, let me say this clearly. You're not imagining it, you're not asking for too much, and you're not broken for wanting more. Being with an enmeshed man doesn't fail because you didn't love deeply enough. It fails because intimacy cannot survive where loyalty is already pledged elsewhere. No amount of patience can replace boundaries that were never built. Choosing yourself in this situation isn't abandonment, it isn't punishment, and it isn't cruelty, it's clarity. You're not responsible for finishing someone else's psychological development. You're not required to compete with a parent for emotional space, and you don't have to keep shrinking to make a dynamic feel stable. Real love doesn't ask you to disappear. Sometimes the most loving act for both people is to step away from a system that only survives when one person stays silent. If this video put words to something you've been struggling to explain, you're not alone. Many people question their reality in relationships like this. If you feel comfortable, share your experience in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to feel sane again. And if you want more conversations like this, deep, honest explorations of the quiet psychological patterns that shape our relationships, consider subscribing to the channel. We're building a space here for understanding, healing, and truth. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching.